Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts, and we have another episode today, 186. And today we're just going to be doing live subscriber chat. So in the live chat, subscribers can post questions. I start at the top of the list and I go down, and super chats get priority. So if you want to do a super chat, contribute to the channel and get your question bumped up to the top, you can do that. Otherwise, I just start at the top and go down. So some other things I wanted to go over. I go over all the links at the end of the show, and they're all down in the bottom. If you want to do a search of the live stream transcripts, there's a link down there to do that, and you can find other stuff that I like down there. So interesting things happened. So if I look a little tired, well, I just got back from Idaho from visiting Kelsey I got to bed at about 1:30 last night because I had a very late flight. So if I seem a little tired, yeah, you can't get around that. But anyway, Kelsey and I we finished the zinc niacinate salve label, and we got some other important things done, and that's very exciting. For those of you who haven't seen my methylene blue thread and why you do not want to take it, because it's a pharma drug and it's not going to be good for you in the long run. And this is why it's never stuck around a long time. Let me show that right now. Here it is. So let me put the link in the chat to this thread. 137.6 thousand views as of now, so it's going good. Now, for those of you who are saying RFK took it and whatever, I'm gonna point out something. Go and watch the video where he puts the blue dye in some water. Does he drink it? There's no visual of him drinking it. There's another influencer that was a very viral tweet or viral social media post of a woman talking about methylene blue, and she doesn't drink it either. This is a psyop, folks. It's very much a psyop, and that's why you're seeing it everywhere on social media now. This is a pharma drug. It is a pharma drug, and it has a black box warning from the FDA. People saying, people could say, well, arsenic is bad in high doses. Well, arsenic's bad in low doses too. Just because people go and take a pharmaceutical antidepressant and antipsychotic, which is what it is, and they feel better, does not mean it's good for you. Let's use our brains. It's directly related to, it's the same family of dyes as food colorings. Do you think food colorings are good? Do you think food colorings accumulate in the system? They do. Do you think this dye accumulates in the system? I show plenty of evidence of that. So yeah, don't get sucked in. It's all part of the same thing as ivermectin and methylene blue and all these other things that are slowing your detox, which I go over in the thread. It's a pretty epic thread. And then, so go check that out. Another thing that's very interesting that's happening. So I was, 2 days ago, I started feeling my head, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I am working on a hair regrowth program. The first program will be for men. The second one will come out later. Kelsey's going to help me with that, more geared towards women who want to work on that. And I want you to know that initially when I talked to the gentleman who I learned some of the basics of this from, the basics of this approach, he said he thought I might be cooked. He said, I don't know if you're going to get anything back. Well, I went as visiting Kelsey this weekend. She confirms that, oh yeah, we're getting it back. No, I don't have a long hairstyle yet because I don't know if I'm ever going to have that because I have a big head. And it just doesn't look great for me to have a big old, thing of hair on my head. So I don't know if I'm ever going to grow it out that much. But here's a really interesting thing that happened to me. And I think it's partially due to the secret supplement that will be coming out soon. So I used to have some sun damage, like the dark spots, the lipofuscin up here in the area where I have the most difficulty. Right here is where I have the most difficulty. It's been the hardest to get the hair back, and it's coming back in that area. I started peeling off I'm in Idaho, so it's not like I'm getting a sunburn where it's peeling off, but I started peeling off skin right here a couple days ago. And I was going, what is that? I'm like scratching off like chunks right in that specific area. Turns out I go and I look in the mirror today at that area, and the lipofuscin, the sun damage is gone from that area. It just came off in chunks. It's pretty cool. And we've had other people say, if you don't understand what lipofuscin is, it's what we call age spots, or what we call liver spots, or what we call sun damage. It is oxidized vitamin A compounds, carotenoids and retinoids. It is charred vitamin A in your skin. And I've shown this on Twitter multiple times. I've shown this research multiple times here. Yeah. So as we get less toxic, I mean, the skin, like lipofuscin in your skin is not bothering your body that much. It's been sequestered there. It's stuck there. Almost like a tattoo. At least tattoos stay in place, right? They're not wandering around your system so much. They're still toxic, but they're not wandering around your system. So lipofuscin is one way that it gets stuck there. And we have people who say their liver spots and their age spots and their lipofuscin disappears over time. I had kind of been waiting for mine to do that, and then all of a sudden it does. So I do definitely believe it is the new secret supplement combined with the years of working on this stuff. And one of the theories of hair loss in men, especially, is that it is associated with big heads, like areas of where your head grows a lot. So if you think about it, the men in your life, go look if they are balding or having male pattern hair loss, look at the size of their head, especially in the areas where they lose their hair, and they're probably big head guys. It's part of the mechanism of hair loss in men. DHT can play a role in this because DHT increases bone growth. But you want to know what else can cause your head to grow? So you guys have heard of mewing, right? And you've seen pictures of people actually change the shape of their jaw through chewing, challenging things like mastic gum and holding their tongue in a different position, and their jaw shape actually changes. If you guys want to go look at my old videos and then look at my new videos and see my head shape and my face shape has changed. Well, what does vitamin A toxicity do to people? That would play into the big head mechanism of male pattern hair loss. One of the most classic symptoms of vitamin A toxicity, hypervitaminosis A, if you will, is idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Idiopathic means they don't know what causes it. Intracranial, inside your skull. Hypertension, high pressure. So imagine this. Now, if you can just hold your jaw in a different position all day by where you put your tongue and where you put your teeth, and you can chew strong, hard things to make your jaw actually grow in size and become bigger and more, if you want to call it more masculine looking. Imagine what would happen to your head shape if all the time, due to vitamin A toxicity, you had internal pressure pushing out. Your head would get bigger. And your head getting bigger stretches out everything and causes scarring and fibrosis in the places where men lose their hair. And then you end up, that is the vitamin A mechanism connecting to hair loss and big heads. So that's just one of the things that we're going to work on. Now, do I know that can go away? No, but we can fix the hair loss, and we are fixing it. It is happening. And I'm only about 3 months into the solid work that of all the things that I'm working on together to make it happen. So if anybody says it's not happening fast enough, you don't realize how long it takes to fix the root cause. So like when I take a break, when I took 2 months off of my program, did I slip backwards at all? Not a bit, because we're fixing the root cause. Do you have to do work to progress? Yes. So what we're going to do when we launch this program, it will be for Love Your Liver members first to join, and we'll be troubleshooting and getting the bugs out and doing all that stuff. And then we will open up to everyone else. And then later we will work on the women's program. So this is very, very exciting. This is getting down to the root cause. And there will be, you can do as much or as little of the program as you want. It'll all be up to you. It always is up to you, right? You can exercise as much or as little as you want, and you determine the benefits you get out of it. So, yeah, let's get into the questions. Hello, Kelsey. Nice to have you here today. So remember, super chats do go to the priority. Otherwise, I start at the top and we're going down. So BJ Williams asks, how do supplements like Keystone Minerals, lactoferrin, niacin translate to much higher blood glucose readings first thing in the morning after fasting? Was 100 to 120, now 120 to 150 plus. Thank you. Okay. This is, okay, so people who have blood sugar issues, when they come into the program, first of all, you may, I always tell people who are like diabetics or who have blood sugar issues, I say, you still have blood sugar issues. Just because you started doing the program doesn't mean that your issues like go away. Let's say you have trouble eating carbs and keeping your blood sugar under control. A lot of diabetics join and they're just like, what's going on with my blood sugar? And I'm like, you're not fixed yet. Like, your sugar stability mechanisms are not fixed. You may need to eat fewer carbs while you fix the issues so that then things can work. Okay? It doesn't just disappear. So that's always a very important factor. Now, we also have the reality of, well, first of all, people, just so you know, BJ, people, I find that people who obsess over their blood sugar readings, if I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'm saying if you're doing it daily, that's kind of obsessing. And the people who obsess over their blood sugar readings and what makes it better and what makes it worse tend to make very poor short-term decisions based on their blood sugar. And blood sugar readings every morning is a stressor, and stressors will raise blood sugar. That's what cortisol and adrenaline do. That's what stress does. So I'm not a huge fan of, unless somebody's on insulin or something, of doing obsessive monitoring of blood glucose. Now, the other thing that we have seen is when we are fixing people's livers, and your liver runs your blood sugar, really. The pancreas, you have to know the liver makes toxic bile. The pancreas is connected to the bile ducts. The pancreatic duct, the pancreas pushes out its stuff into the bile ducts to join, to go into the intestines. So just like bile can back up into your stomach, why does it do that? I don't know. It does. But bile can back up into your pancreas and damage your pancreas. And this is pancreatitis. This is pancreatic cancer. All the problems with the pancreas happen generally where it meets the pancreatic duct, which is connected to the common bile duct. So the liver is really what runs blood sugar. So we're working on the liver. Now, we also see the pattern of when people take, or when people are fixing their liver, if they know they've had liver problems in the past, their liver enzymes can get a little worse for a while. So if they're looking short term and they just decide, oh my gosh, my liver enzymes went up on the program, even as they're feeling better, then they might quit or make poor decisions long term, because what we see is those liver enzymes, what we believe they are, for somebody who's, let's say, doing well in their symptoms, and they're feeling better, and we see their liver enzymes go up for a bit, we don't worry about it, because it's actually the liver is working harder to fix itself. One of the ways I perceive liver enzymes is it's an indicator of how hard the liver is working. Now, if somebody is doing a bunch of toxic things to themselves and their liver is starting to work a lot harder, that's bad, because, it'd be like if you try to drive your car with the emergency brake on, it's going to take more gas to run it, and you're going to burn out the brakes, and you're going to burn out the engine. Whereas if we are fixing the engine, it's going to work a little harder. The liver has to work to fix itself. And the liver would have to get rid of old, crappy liver cells that aren't working well anymore. And so you break those up and you see liver enzymes go up. So that is the theory here about that. Now, blood sugar stuff, you could be pushing things too hard with the supplements. So if you're pushing things too hard with soluble fiber, with the supplements, with all the other things that we do, then you dump more bile into the system, and more bile into the system could look like higher blood sugar readings for a while. Yeah. The biggest thing I tell newbies to the program is slow down. If you haven't seen my aphorisms and expressions and that series of 3 live streams, you should go and watch it so you understand really a lot of the philosophy behind what we're doing here. And slowing down is like the biggest part of it. So if you added all those supplements at once and then you saw this happen, I mean, your blood sugar going up could be the lactoferrin, what I call the lactoferrin cold, or now I'm going to start calling it the lactoferrin creep. The lactoferrin and niacin both increase your bile dumping. They help you to detox, but detoxing is bile dumping. But if you're still leaking toxic bile, then you can cause whatever symptoms you have to look worse for a while. If you're feeling better overall, that is the guiding light. That is what you are pursuing. Okay? So that's the multiple things that can be going on. If you are feeling better with what you're doing, I'm not worried about the blood sugar thing. If you've drastically increased your carbohydrate intake and you have blood sugar issues, then you may need to reduce your carbohydrate intake. Now, it doesn't mean like low carb. It means just don't eat so many. Or if you know that there are carbs that you don't get along with, like if a diabetic came to me and they're like, Dr. Smith, I'm doing great on all the other aspects of the program, but I can't eat bananas. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. Okay. So if you know there are foods that make your blood sugar go crazy that are on that are in the framework of the program, then don't eat them. Or if it's just too many carbs for you for now. We've had people who are full-on carnivores, like muscle meat carnivores, who all they do at the start, they can't eat anything else. They're too sensitive to eat anything else. And all they do is they add soluble fiber like psyllium husk. So they add like a low-carb soluble fiber. Maybe charcoal if they can. And then they start getting better and they get less toxic. And then all of a sudden they can start adding more things. So we can have an all muscle meat carnivore doing the program. All they really need to do is add some soluble fiber, maybe charcoal, and then they start progressing. And then all of a sudden they get themselves out of the hole that they dug, the metabolic hole that they dug where they can't tolerate things. So what your program is looking like at the time, like these are the things that only you can work on. And if you're taking too much of something, then take less. Or if it's too much niacin and it's causing too much bile dumping, or if it's too much lactoferrin and it's causing too much bile dumping, or keystone minerals, everything we do, folks, if you're here and if you're unwell, chronic illness, or you just want to feel better, you have some amount of toxic bile leaking into your bloodstream. Okay. Once we accept that, then we go, okay, just like if a sink is leaking, like if you turn on the faucet and the sink faucet, the handle actually, let's say it's leaking. If let's say we say everything we're doing as we get people healthier, they are going to increase their bile dumping. Their bile dumps are going to get bigger. Toxins tend to slow down your bile production, which is why you can't get rid of as much toxicity. And then the bile becomes more toxic. It eats more holes and it leaks more into your system. So even though you're not making as much, you're leaking more proportionally, and you're eating away bigger holes. So as we fix this, your bile gets less toxic over time, and your liver actually starts making more bile. It starts producing more. This is a good thing overall, but if you push things too hard, too fast, then you bite yourself in the butt and you go, well, why am I getting better in some ways, but I'm worse in other ways? And we go, because you're pushing too hard. If you want your quality of life to be as good as possible as you go through these initial years of detox, you need to watch out for pushing too hard. So it doesn't mean you're getting worse. And the other thing that I have to say, I'm not advising this. However, if you are pushing so hard that you are getting negative symptoms, you may be causing some damage. Can your body fix that damage in the end? Yeah. However, you are detoxing faster overall, but you may be causing a little bit of damage along the way. It'd be like driving your car too hard. Yeah, you'll get there quicker, but do you cause your engine a little more damage along the way? Yes. Can your body theoretically fix this? Yeah. But why do it? Why push too hard? If you're here, anybody who is here talking to this, they are trying to improve their quality of life. So why push so hard that you reduce your quality of life when you will eventually detox that? So you can kind of go slow and steady to win the race, or you can push way too hard and get way out ahead and feel bad. And then is that going to make you quit the program? Are you going to think that the program's not working? All because somebody, I'm not saying this about you, BJ, but if somebody was greedy and impatient and they push too hard and they're like, why do I feel like crap? This program makes me feel like crap. I don't understand. And they heard me on the live streams going, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And then they keep doing it. And then they go, this doesn't work. I quit. How many of us, and I include myself in this, have damaged ourselves by being greedy and impatient and pushing too hard in the other things in health in our lives, even if it's fitness or diet stuff. And you go, I'm going to be the toughest guy to ever do this diet, and I'm going to do better than everybody else before. And then they hurt themselves because the diet wasn't great to begin with, and they do it excessively, or they do supplements excessively. Especially the stuff that we talk about here. I mean, the more you take of supplements that are not good for you, the sooner you're going to burn yourself out. And then if people don't realize that the bad news is coming, their honeymoon will end, then they hit it really hard. They hit the wall real hard, and then they wonder why. Why didn't I get a warning? My car worked fine until it broke. Things tend to fail drastically, you know. So anyway, those are the things that I would say to work on. And then about blood sugar, the things to focus on short term to help blood sugar in general, topical magnesium, there's a whole episode on that, and potassium, which was just last week. So those are the two things that can help blood sugar the most, like initially, and then work on the other supplements. So if you haven't been doing those other things, I would get on those. And then those other things that I talked about. So, okay. Hope that helps, BJ. Let's see. Okay. Bonita says, once you have cancer, then what? How can I detox and get the bile out? Okay. So it's everything we do in the program. Okay. So first of all, I'm not allowed to say I treat cancer in any way. This is in the rules of me having a license, that nature. Only conventional doctors are allowed to say they treat cancer. So I'm only allowed to say I support people nutritionally and with supplements who may have cancer. So if I were working with somebody along the cancer lines, we have a gentleman who had lung cancer who is doing very, very well, making lots of progress back to building houses. It would likely look like, well, first of all, I would say I would want them consulting with one of our practitioners so that not only do they get guidance on their supplementation and we can see what their toxicity is coming out, they would have access to office hours so that they can get troubleshooting from any of our 4 practitioners. That would be, if any of you out there want the best work that we do, that's the testing and consultation packages, and you can find those on the consultation tab at nutritiondetective.com. So that is our best work. You get access to the whole Love Your Liver program included in that package. And then you would work with our practitioner. Now, somebody with cancer who is in a bit more of well, first of all, if somebody has cancer, I'm going to tell you it's the toxic bile that feeds the cancer. That is why the cancer is there. It's to store toxicity. So just like I said before, if you start pumping out way too much bile too quickly, you could see possibly the cancer get worse because you're pumping out toxins. They're leaking into your blood. That's what the cancer's there for. So you don't want to go hog wild just because you're in this situation. The first thing we do, it's the same three principles that we do for everything. Number one, stop putting the toxins in. This is the most important thing. We stop intoxing before we worry about detoxing. So that's number one, and that's the Love Your Liver program. Number two, we are going to facilitate the removal of stored toxins. Now, this is things like soluble fiber, activated charcoal, hardwood preferably, or bamboo. And then when we get into the secret supplement, that will be there, and that is going to accelerate all of this extremely by extreme amounts. Then there would be restore the nutrient deficiencies. This is the, the minerals that we talk about. This is the testing and consultation. This is the niacin. Now, somebody who was in a more significant situation, then we would start to talk about, more talking about near infrared saunas or just saunas. If you don't have an infrared sauna, do a regular sauna. Or if you don't have a sauna and you only have a steam room, then do the steam room. But you need to do the amount so that it's not making you feel worse. So you're not punishing yourself, because heat causes bile dumping. Stress causes bile dumping. Heat causes bile dumping. You don't want to push it so hard that you're dumping too much into your system and then you're tiring yourself out. Right? You need energy to fix all this. If you're tiring yourself out, you dump too much bile into your system, and now your energy sucks, and your body's using its energy to clear the bile out of the blood, which is the root cause of the problem to begin with. So there would be, you could do one of the things that I need to put a section in the program on detailing is the niacin plus exercise plus sauna detox thing, which is, it's very simple. You take some flush niacin. You go and you do mild to moderate cardio for 20 to 30 minutes. Mild to moderate. Not hard. You're not crossfitting. You're not HIIT. You're doing mild to moderate. So it can be just going to the, you could walk outside. You could go walk on the treadmill at the gym. Like my gym has, the cardio stuff. And then they have the sauna. It's not infrared anymore. It's kind of interesting. The gym took away all their infrared saunas and just made it the normal, box that heats the rocks now. It's kind of disappointing. But it's still a sauna, and they have a steam room too. So if you want to do that, just make sure you're not laying down in the steam room or the sauna if you don't have a towel underneath you, because then you're just laying in other people's toxicity, and you absorb toxins through your skin. So don't just go and sit in a wet puddle of other people's nasty sweat toxins. Okay. And you're not trying. This is very, very important. I cannot believe how many people go into the gym and, you see the guys who are trying to be hardcore, and they go and they put their hand over the thermometer sensor, the temperature sensor in the steam room, just so they can make it extra, extra hot, because it's not the study on veterans where they detox them really nicely in, I forget if it was 8 or 12 weeks. They were doing temperatures in the sauna of 140 to 160. Fairly low temperature, and they were staying in there for 2 to 3 hours. Not everybody has 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, somebody with cancer, they might want to devote a lot of time to it. It's pretty serious. At that point, cancer is an expression of significant deep toxicity. I think in my 30s, I had a bump here. It was kind of a lumpy bump. It was skin. I'm sure it was skin cancer. I was getting little electrical zingers from it. So that's how toxic. When people think, why can I talk about this stuff? I had prostate problems in my 20s. I got what I know is a skin cancer. I got rid of it with some Amazon salve. I'm not going to go into detail on that here, but I got rid of it with that. So I was having major issues in my 20s and early 30s, major significant issues. And they're all gone now. So what do I know? I figured this stuff out because I was in trouble from all the health stuff I had learned, all the BS health stuff I had learned previously. So yeah, you would want to try to accelerate the detox. You would want to be doing charcoal as much as you can handle, and you can still poop. We need you pooping. If you were in the Love Your Liver program, you might read Kelsey's article on niacin enemas. That would be a very good thing to do. The secret supplement, when it comes out, will be very, very helpful. And yeah, that niacin plus moderate exercise plus sauna would be a key thing, I think, for somebody in a serious situation like you're describing. So it's basically the normal program, same concepts and principles that we do for everything. You're just you're making sure to add that to it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, wait, I jumped. Okay, Johnny. Is a low level of copper and ceruloplasmin in the serum an indicator of profound copper toxicity in the liver? Former Accutane user. Thanks. Okay. Oh, Accutane, man. Generally, well, Gianni, are you an undertype? You're welcome, Benita. You're very welcome for that. I hope it helps. Yeah, by the time we tend to get cancer people, or the people who have cancer, they're usually so worried that they kind of look at my stuff and they go, it's too late for that. I need to go and be serious. Well, just so you know, the guy who we're helping with lung cancer, we were at the start, and he said, I'm going to do the chemo. So we did a round of chemo, and I said, okay, go. I mean, it's your life. Go ahead and do it. I don't argue with people. I said, okay. And he said, we're going to do your stuff as soon as I'm done. And I don't want to do the chemo again. And I said, okay, great. We do still have to detox the chemo once you're done with it. But so now he hasn't gone back and done anymore. And like I said, he's back to building houses, like working all day. So can we do this? Yes. Can we? We had another person who wanted to work with us. She had a softball-sized tumor on her neck, and they were concerned that it was going to cut off her breathing, right? Which is a real concern. There are times for surgery. She decided to do radiation for it. That's what the doctors wanted to do. Later on, well, she passed very quickly. Her family member told me, I have never seen someone go from alive to dead so quickly. So if you go and you play the oncology game, it's kind of like FAFO. They're trying to poison tissues. And if you think about it, if they do radiation to shrink that, if they do surgery, they may just cut it and leak all the stuff that was in it out, which is how these things spread. Because all of a sudden, when you have those think about the toxicity that you stored in that. Let's say you take a biopsy or you cut it open. You start leaking these toxins, and some of them are probably marked, with proteins, with antibodies that are kind of a signal, and they go around, they're floating around your bloodstream, and your body goes, oh my goodness, these are marked as storage toxins, like they're marked for storage. We better make more tissue to store this. Alert, alert, alert. The vault has been opened and everything is spilling out. So we better start making more storage areas. Do you see how that works? So radiation, if you're going to go and destroy the tissue, where do those toxins go? Are they just oxidized and disappear? Do some toxins, as they get oxidized, become more toxic? Yes, vitamin A does. So the sooner you start on the program, the better off you'll be, no matter what decision you make. I had a woman who was going through chemo for her, she had a breast cancer. This was before I did all the Love Your Liver stuff. And she was doing the stuff that I told her, and she was going through chemo, and all of her nurses were like, what are you doing? Why are you not falling apart? I was kind of like, wow, that's a big compliment. And then we were doing lymphomyocyte injections for her to prevent the lymph swelling in her armpits, the lymphedema. And it worked so well that her cancer nurses, her occupational therapist told doctors at the U of A about it. And they sent me an email saying, please tell us about what you're doing because it's very, very effective. And I told them, and I showed them the research on lymphomyosat because there are actually published studies on lymphomyosat. FDA approved injectable. I don't know if they're making them anymore, but they never replied. They don't want to fix people. They don't. They were like, can we sell this for lots of money? No, you can't. So, okay, just ditch it. It worked, but yeah, forget about the people who are suffering. So anyway, okay, so let me see. Gianni got to the questions. Let's see. He says, I'm a medium type. I think sometimes lose weight, sometimes gain weight. Okay, so the low copper thing. All right, Gianni, do you have terrible copper deficiency symptoms? I like when, so if we see low, did you do your vitamin A, Gianni? That's what I want to know. Did you do, or do you, if you've done any labs like blood work, do you tend to see low stuff in your blood work? Do you tend to be low on things? That's an important thing. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll give you a second to get to that question. Undertypes, some of the sickest people I see are what I typically call undertypes, which commonly, not always, if people don't understand trends, like trends mean it's a tendency, it's a pattern. It doesn't mean patterns do not mean it always is that way. This is a very important concept. Being able to recognize patterns and suss them out of things while there are exceptions is how I got here. I could go like the idea of holding two opposing ideas in your head at the same time and not going insane. I'm pretty okay with that. So could I have, like I say about magnesium pills, about 1 in 20 people in my estimation can actually maintain good magnesium levels with pills. 1 in 20. The other 19, it doesn't work for. So what happens when I come across a hair test and somebody takes the magnesium pills and it's good? I go, you're lucky. You're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. Okay, you can keep doing it. What about all the other people who insist on taking pills and it never works for their magnesium? You're not one of the lucky ones. You need to do topical. So can both be true? Can the pills work sometimes? Yeah. Does topical magnesium work for pretty much everybody to raise their levels better than pills? Yeah. Topical still works better than pills in pill people. It's just they may be able to take pills. So, let's see. So, Gianni said his serum vitamin A was 71. That's a lot. And it's now 40 about. Okay, cool. Great. So that's coming down. Can you give me the numbers on your copper, on your serum copper, Gianni? That would be, I want to know what we're looking at here. So with serums, here's the thing about blood vitamin A, folks. A serum level of 71, at least at LabCorp standards, would be diagnosable vitamin A toxicity. Even an MD could see that level. The LabCorp standards have actually gone up over the years. I remember when I first started looking at serum retinol tests, it was like 57.2 was the high end. And now they're up to like 64 or even 69. It keeps raising. Well, why would they do that? Because the levels change with the population. They fudge the statistics. They make it so 95% of people are going to be normal. Only 2.5% are high and 2.5% are low. They curve the test. They don't want too many people to show toxicity, because then what are the doctors going to do when they have a bunch of people with vitamin A toxicity? Or a bunch of people with mercury toxicity, or a bunch of people with all these other toxicities? Well, they don't know what to do. What are they going to do? Give them a drug for it? This is always the thing I get a kick out of with hepatologists, liver doctors. You got these people coming to you with liver problems, probably from drugs, pharmaceuticals, alcohol, all these other things, and the and medications. What are the hepatologists going to do? Be like, well, don't take your medications. Those are bad for your liver. And then people are going to be like, what? Huh? You mean these drugs are bad for my liver and that's how I'm here? So, and the joke I did it on Twitter the other day was I'm gonna impersonate a hepatologist in their treatment. Stop drinking alcohol. That's like, stop drinking alcohol. Stop that. Okay. That'll be $600, as Will joked about too in the Twitter thing. So, okay, Gianni's got 55 copper and 18 ceruloplasmin. Zinc is about 70. Okay, so as I said, I've seen a man with a serum copper of 35 and no copper deficiency symptoms. The other thing that happens is that zinc and copper tend to move, especially in the early phases, they move up and down in lockstep. So if like one was higher than the other, they tend to move up and down together until later. The good news is for your labs, Gianni, is that your zinc is higher than your copper in the blood. I would want to see it also in the hair test. I look at both because we always want a good protective zinc to damaging copper ratio. So the good news for you is that your zinc is above your copper. That's good. Am I worried? I'm not going to do the calculations on the ceruloplasmin right now because it's a whole calculator. I used to do it and it didn't really move the needle in terms of how I treat people. So I don't bother with it anymore. But I'm not worried about that. You may have a little bit of the low copper presentation, but I would bet that as you get over time, as you get healthier and as you potentially get more zinc in your storage, that you'll actually see the copper level come up with the zinc until eventually the copper level goes down. We're starting to see some really significantly low copper levels. It's kind of funny that people out there are saying we don't detox copper and they don't see the levels that we see every day about how we're bringing people down. Some people are just bitter and crazy and angry. Those of you on Twitter would know who I'm talking about. But yeah, Accutane will really damage the liver. If you haven't, Gianni, you may want to do the homeopathic detox therapy for Accutane, and all that information's in the Love Your Liver program, how to get the remedies and all that stuff. Oh, Zendog says, what's up with the super chat not letting you send? Well, I don't know. Joe, we love your super chat, so definitely there shouldn't be any problem here. Let me see. Doesn't look like I checked to see if there was anything, marking you. I don't know why that would have happened either, but I don't know. There are no super chats, so maybe when we had one. I'm sorry, I forgot to say thank you, Gianni, for the super chat. Yeah, I'm not worried about the copper thing. If you see it over time, if all of a sudden you see your copper start going up and your zinc going up, then that means you are starting to free up more copper from your liver. Some of it is getting back into your blood, but it also may be coming out of your tissues into the blood and heading to the liver. That's the thing we don't know, folks. This is the biggest thing you have to know is, let's say you see something go up in the blood that we don't like. Is it because you're leaking more of it into the blood out of the liver, or is it because it's coming out of the tissues and going to the liver? We don't get to know that. This is a very important thing. People on the hair test, when they say that there was somebody talking about a supplement detoxing aluminum the other day on a video. And this aluminum number was well above anything I'd ever seen. And they were saying it was detoxing. And I said, actually, knowing what I know about the supplement, they may have been taking aluminum in their supplement. Their aluminum may have directly contained aluminum. So if we know that, and then we see the aluminum off the charts, like off the charts, those of you who have seen hair tests, yeah, aluminum off the charts. I've never seen that before. I also know that there's free aluminum in the supplement this person was taking. So what am I going to assume? I'm going to assume that they're poisoning themselves until proven differently, until proven otherwise. And I'd have to see a follow-up hair test where if they kept taking it, if their aluminum stayed high, then we would know they're poisoning themselves. So sometimes you have to have multiple tests to see what's happening with these things. I'll go over the patterns of dumping and detox. Okay, Gianni says he has high copper symptoms sometimes. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, you're very welcome. But yeah, knowing detox, when you have the labs to watch detox, like I'm doing with the secret supplement, you guys, this is going to be like one of the best little N=1, like the one case study of detox that may be out there. I'm about to go do my 4th round. Every month I've been testing hair and blood for toxic metals and urine, a 24-hour urine test for toxic metals. The things I've seen in this, it's going to be 3 months now because I did a test at the start and then I've tested each month after that. So I did a baseline test before I was using it, and then I've done a test every month. It is bonkers. It is absolutely bonkers. It's really crazy. I'm kind of seeing why, like, potentially the toxic metals that were jammed up in my kidneys are coming out now. And why I always had low back stiffness as a symptom of bile dumping. Well, kidneys don't like toxic bile, and the kidneys do store toxic metals, specifically cadmium and lead. So where I got these, I don't know. Doesn't really matter as long as I'm not exposed to them now. And they're coming out, it's really cool. In a certain way, I know I have all these health problems like I was telling you about earlier. I had all of them, or I still have them because it keeps me working on things for the benefit of everyone else out there. I mean, it benefits me, but it benefits everyone else out there. I just take an interest in it because it's me and I want to fix it. So let's see. Oh, hello, Will. Hi, Joe. Let's see. Hi, Baptized in Fire. And hi, Donna. I'm trying. I can't hit everybody. I'm trying, but just hello, everyone in the chat. Okay, Will publishes estrogen Substack if you want to check it out. Will, you could post the link in there if you want. I was thinking of doing an estrogen and estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiency. I'll probably do that if I decide to do it soon. I'll probably do it in the style that I do everything else, showing that certain toxins increase estrogen and certain nutrients increase progesterone or decrease progesterone. So, or toxins decrease progesterone. So yeah, I'll do it in my style, the way I do it. And Will is going to post that link to his Substack, and you guys can check that out if you want. Okay. Audrey is giving a testimonial. Joe, if you want to show this one. Audrey J, thank you for the testimonial. Here we go. I'm 66, going on 5 years on the detox diet. Bowel movements are solid and regular for 2 months now. It's a miracle and life changer for me after 20 plus years of diarrhea. I don't know if these numbers, I'm assuming you put the right number. 10 to 220 times a day. Maybe you meant 22. Maybe you meant 220. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Well, you are very welcome, Audrey. It's great to have you here. 10 to 20 times a day. Okay, good. That's a... I didn't want to say, I remember, okay, so I'm not going to discount your potential, your personal experience, because there was one night, I don't know what was happening for me, pushing detox too hard or space weather or whatever. There was a night where I think I stopped counting the times I woke up to pee at 12 times in the night. It was one night. It was like the worst night I ever had. So yeah, imagine waking up 12 times to pee or more. I stopped counting at a certain point. So I totally get it. And like I said, I had prostate issues in my mid-20s. So I had a lot of detox to do from my prostate. And just so you know about the whole lycopene and prostate thing, they tend to find more lycopene in prostate cancer. I think we went over that in a live stream. So yes, glad Aubrey. So your other testimonial on the L, did you say LD? Is that LDL or LYL? I'm just making sure that we got that one right too. Or is that in here too? Okay. So on that note, Virgie, who's a big fan of the Love Your Liver program. Virgie was with me before we started the vitamin A detox, and she's been with me through the whole thing. We got her, she had been constipated her entire life up until, months or a year ago, where all of a sudden now, even with a little help from magnesium, she's now very regularly pooping 2 or 3 times a day. And she's functioning like a younger woman in other areas of her life too. She told me about. So she's enjoying life, and she's, I believe, in her early 70s. So, let me look. So let me see. Did I miss? Let me see. Okay. Wait, did I miss? I missed LeBrad's. I'm sorry, LeBrad. Let me get to your super chat. I can't believe I missed that. Joe, I got to get on. Sorry, I wasn't looking at Joe's Telegram. Okay, LeBrad says, "Hey doc, thoughts on vasectomies or update on your own? Read some old posts in the network. Thanks in advance." I don't. Well, here's what I can say for the guys who think that it ruins men. I mean, my testosterone, you saw my video on my testosterone about 900 several years ago. So I don't necessarily agree. I think, first of all, if you are in a relationship if you're out there, I'm just going to be blunt about it. If you're out there having sex and you don't want to have kids, like I turned 50 in October. I don't want to have, I've decided I'm done with kids. Do I still think I might be able to? I mean, do I think I could very much be able to if I didn't have that done? Yeah, I am so healthy, and I know I could raise kids at this age. Do I want to? No, I really think that time has passed, and I don't want to do any more stuff down there. If you are in a loving relationship and you have, a normal male-female relationship, and you don't want to have kids, and you don't want to do birth control all the time, and you don't want to, potentially risk it with just the rhythm method or whatever. I'm not saying any of these are better. If you can do ladies, if you want to do the rhythm method or whatever you want to call it, and you're good at it, and you trust it, and you're okay, and you have to be okay if it happens. I think that men doing it is a much safer, and having them go in and surgically mess up women's guts to do this is a lot worse problem for the future than doing it to a man, in my opinion. So, have I had any issues with mine? No. Got my 2 kids, and now I don't have to worry about it. So that's about that. I don't know what else to say on it. I had a great doctor, and I did some serratiopeptidase, some serapeptase to heal from it, and I didn't have any bruising. I barely had any pain. I go and I tell my doctor about it, and he goes, "Oh, I guess you're just not an easy bruiser." He didn't want to hear about it for his future patients. He didn't care that he was seeing this amazing rate of healing. He didn't care. He was like just nodding, okay. I was like, wow, you suck. So, but yeah, I think if there was a choice in a loving relationship and the 2 people are done having kids and you don't want to have to worry about it at all, like I said, the 40-year-old lady client, they messed up once. I told her, I said, you better You better really work on whatever you're doing for, I'm just going to say birth control, whatever you're doing to prevent it, preventative, because you're going to get super fertile. This is the good and bad of this. We make people super fertile. You're like walking around with loaded guns, basically. And if you mess it up, you're probably going to get pregnant. That's just the reality. It is what it is. You want to be really healthy, you're going to be really fertile. Maybe you want to be really healthy and fertility goes with that, and you don't want any more kids for whatever reason. I don't have to worry about it. And apparently my testosterone is still going pretty good. So I don't know that I believe, think about a placebo effect, right? If guys think that it's a big problem, then it is. So they manifest it. They become what they think. So anyway. Okay, so let's keep going. Free art, are you asking about who I am? You could watch the 185 other live streams to figure out who I am. Or other people could explain it to you. My background in this industry, I became a naturopathic physician in 2006, and I've been practicing since. And yeah, we have quite a few people like you just saw. Aubrey's, was it Aubrey or Audrey? I want to say it right. Audrey's testimonial. So yeah. Okay, so Audrey said, yes, fiber helped her. Organic steel cut oats and sun fiber every day, a pinch. Yep. Baptized in Fire was saying, he said, I think you're talking about the doc, it hurts when I do this, then don't do that. He was saying, I don't know what that meant, but quickly enough found out. LOL, going slow and steady now. Yes. The biggest mistake people make on the program. I put warnings in all my stuff, don't I, folks? I'm like, this, you can do too much of this, so start slow. How many people don't know that I say start slow, add one thing at a time, and then how many people don't? All of us, including me, push the pedal to the metal, and then we get our butt kicked, and then you come to the live chat, or you come to my office hours, or the other people's office hours, and you ask, why do I feel bad? And then it's like, what did you add? I'm like, oh, I added like 3 supplements and I bumped up my fiber. And it's like, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. You're going too hard, too fast. You don't walk into the gym and do every single machine the first day, or every free weight exercise you can think of the first day. You can mess yourself up. Like, if you think of it like exercise, you don't go into the gym as a newbie and then try to go and squat what the strongest guy in the gym is doing, because you will break yourself. Okay, so you don't come into detox and start to do everything at once, especially when you've got, like the old personal trainer in the gym going, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Add slow, start with this basic exercise, and then you can go up in reps and you could go up in weight. And then later you could do the harder exercise. And, it's like, it's very much like exercise. All these things have the same concepts and principles. As you get stronger, as you get less toxic, as you understand your body more, then you can manipulate things. But at the start, when you're a newbie, you don't know. So it's better to err on the side of caution. Now, I will say this. You don't get to find your limits without bumping into them. That's just the way it is. You don't know how fast you can take a car around a turn until you push the speed. Now, if it's by a cliff and you push it too hard, then you go off the cliff. So if you don't want to go off the cliff, it's always better to go a little slower than a little too fast. But you don't know your limits until you push them. That's life. So, M Jam says, do you feel like your process of going through minerals, vitamins, bile, etc., and the research as resembling cherry picking data? Do I think that there's a bunch of corrupt BS research out there? Yes. Am I out here working with real people, watching the application of the real research that I choose to follow, giving me real results? Yeah. Do I care about people saying I'm cherry picking data? Do you want to know why medicine doesn't get anywhere and why most people out in the nutrition field and detox field don't get anywhere? Is because they give equal value to all research. And then they go, well, you could prove either side. And then what do they get? Analysis paralysis. They're stuck. They don't know what to do. Well, this could do this, or this could do this. Or then you get people who look at all the toxicity research on methylene blue, and then they look at the stuff saying it's good for them, and then they decide to take a toxic porta potty dye that accumulates in their nerves and their brain. The way to actually do things in the world is to pick a side. So you can call it cherry picking. I can call it picking a side because I am here to help my people. I don't care what the consensus is. I don't care about researchers looking at petri dishes to see what happens in them. I don't care. I don't care that virus theory is a trash theory that exists. So all of a sudden I can take a lot of this stuff and throw it out because of what I have read and what I have seen and what I have done in myself. Call it cherry picking. I don't care. I mean, it must be working. We keep growing. We keep helping people. We keep getting testimonials of people saying, nothing ever fixed this until now. So, do I care about accusations of cherry picking? No, not at all. If you wait for the science to give you the answer, you'll never have it. They don't want to prove that they're poisoning us. They don't want to prove that their food sucks. They don't want to hurt industry. Oh my gosh, if you don't think that this current admin, it's all about protecting industry and removing regulations, oh my goodness. If you have no idea what's coming then. They're going to remove a lot of regulations. And they're not going to get rid of any of those big companies that are going to take advantage of everything they can. It's going to be ugly. Oh, free art. You did the stupid. There you go. There you go. Character assassination by stupid people. So, free art's gone. It's really kind of funny that everybody loves to do the you're bald thing, and I'm working on fixing it. Would I have had any reason to fix this problem if I didn't have it? Do I have to be perfect to, like, why would you trust a guy who's had hair his entire life to fix a hair regrowth problem? It's funny, people want you to be like a Greek god, and they're like, it's okay. I can deal with this. So too bad for him. He's not going to be around here to listen anymore. Let's see. Oh, Elijah added, my kidneys were also acting up from taking Vince Gironda's advice on eggs. We see how he died too. Yeah. The whole bodybuilding thing is just, I don't understand how people don't see that bodybuilders don't live a long time. They generally die very early, and then people will say, well, it's peds. And I'm saying, well, they're trying to do a bunch of things to get bigger, right? If you start hearing about how they raise cattle and what they do to make them bigger, and you go, well, that's not healthy. And then you start going, well, what are bodybuilders doing, and why are you following their advice? They die really early. Oh, let's slonk down like 10 to 20 eggs a day. Okay. So the thing is like, you could do things to your car to make it drive faster that are going to burn out your engine and your car faster. You can run the engine in the red and blow it up sooner. Is that what you're trying to do in your life? Do you want to be a professional athlete who dies early? Or are you trying to have like a higher than normal quality of life, live longer, enjoy your life more, and fix the problems that are already there. That's what I'm about. So, oh, here we go. Audrey's testimonial. 5 years on the detox diet, LDL dropped from 300 to 180. Stopped taking a statin over a year ago. Folks, your cholesterol problems are liver problems and toxicity problems. So is your triglycerides. Audrey, my total cholesterol used to be 280. LDL was over 200. So your LDL was 300. Wow, that's bonkers. Yeah, and I'm assuming you mean just LDL was 300. Yeah. So here's the part that confuses people about cholesterol, folks. Your cholesterol is a binder for toxins. So the more this is a hard thing for people to understand. Cholesterol is a binder for toxins. The more toxic somebody is, the more when people say, well, higher cholesterol is good, it's better than low cholesterol if you're toxic. Oh, so Allison Ashton added, she went from 330 total cholesterol 330 to 240, and LDL was lowered too, and triglycerides lowered too. And do I treat cholesterol? No, I hardly ever talk about it. I'm talking about it right now so you understand how it fits into the paradigm, the toxic bile paradigm. So if you're toxic, it would be, so when people say, well, high cholesterol is better than low. Yes, here's why. You have two toxic people. Like maybe you have an overtype where they tend to go more overweight and they tend to have higher cholesterol. And then you have the undertypes who tend to be underweight and often tend to have lower cholesterol. And schizophrenia tends to be associated with low cholesterol, and schizophrenia tends to be associated with underweight people. So that's like an extreme example. Okay. It is better if you're toxic to have higher cholesterol because it's more protective. Does that mean it's good to have high toxicity? No. It means if you're going to be toxic, it's better to have more cholesterol to protect you. If you're toxic and you have low cholesterol and you're still toxic, that's a worse situation. So can we look at the research now and go, yeah, it's like they say obesity reduces your longevity. Yes. But nobody ever talks about the little part in there where they say underweight people actually die sooner than the overweight people. So being underweight is worse than being overweight. Does that mean being either is good? No. But is underweight a worse situation? Yes, I've always said this in liver stuff. Your liver's in a worse position if you are underweight. Does that mean you should give up? No. We have people gaining weight all the time. Actually, Baptized in Fire was just talking about how he added soluble fiber and he started gaining weight in a good way. So somebody who is underweight and starts gaining weight in a good way where they're not having to force it is a very good sign. And then people who are overweight and toxic and start losing weight in a good way, that's another good sign. And we should see the overweight people's cholesterol generally come down, and we should see the underweight people's cholesterol for a while go up. After Grant had been doing his detox diet, his prison diet for I think 5 or 6 years or something, if I recall correctly, his total cholesterol was down at like 120. His doctor said he had the cholesterol of a 5-year-old. Other people might freak out and go, oh my gosh, that's too low. You can't make hormones. Somebody please show me the research where not enough cholesterol in the blood was the cause of low hormones. Somebody show me the research, because everybody on the social media says it. And who says your liver doesn't know how to make enough cholesterol to make your hormones? Your liver makes like 80% of your cholesterol. You don't need to eat it. It's like choline. Your body makes choline. You need to eat eggs to get choline, or could you just eat red meat and have your body make it? As opposed to the studies in my eggs thread where higher blood choline was associated with more diseases. And they directly correlated the amount of choline in the blood to how many eggs people ate. The number of eggs somebody ate was directly correlated to the amount of choline in their blood. And the higher choline, the more diseases. They didn't tell you about that part, did they? So, thank you for the super test, Will, the super chat, super test. So let me hit on these super chats. Let me see. We got about a half hour left. Oh, Elijah added statins nearly killed her stepdad, and we helped Audrey get off of them. And my mom, here's a funny story about my mom. My mom has high cholesterol just like I do. Or I used to. Sorry. And she hasn't run her cholesterol in a while because we don't want to send her to doctors because they're just going to tell her to get on drugs. And then we took her to a neurologist once, and the neurologist was amazed at her condition and how well she had not deteriorated. They were expecting her to deteriorate a lot faster. So my mom's just like, I don't need to go. But they put her on statins, and she would get the muscle pain weakness from the statins within like a day or two. And then she talks to her doctor about it. And her doctor goes, that's impossible. Muscle pain and weakness doesn't happen for at least 2 weeks while you're on it. I love when they deny patient experiences and patient feedback. They're like, no, that's not possible. It's all in your head. That's just not possible. And it's like, no, it happens. My mom is very sensitive to things, and she reacts to things very quickly within 2 or 3 days. If she's not going to get along with it, it's right there. And I just go, okay, well, I know that if she starts something, I need to wait 2 or 3 days before I ask her, how are you doing on it? And then if she says I'm feeling foggy, fuzzy headed or whatever, then okay, we're not doing that, or we're doing less. So Fernando says, tomorrow I'm going to get a physical for the first time in 7 years. Any questions I should ask or blood tests to get? I'm a 33-year-old male, and aside from 3 autoimmune stuff, I'm healthy. Well, yeah, 3 autoimmune conditions is toxicity. So I don't know that I'd call it healthy, but you're here. You're fixing it. So that doesn't really matter where you start out. We all start out somewhere, and I talk about all my issues that got me here. And that's why I do this. I was interested in fixing myself first. Somebody might call it selfish, but God helps those who help themselves. And so here I am helping myself, and then I'm out here helping everybody else. So if you want to get, okay, my basic blood tests, the 4 blood tests that I get on people. Ferritin, that should be an easy one to get. Serum copper. I like plasma zinc. Serum zinc is not as good. Plasma zinc is better. Your doctor may not even care to mark the thing properly. And then we get a serum retinol or a blood vitamin A. Those are the basics. If you want to get other stuff, if they'll do it, the thing to remember about most blood tests is they are symptoms. They are symptoms of something else. Blood glucose, if it's off, what's that a symptom of? Something else, right? There's a deeper problem to the blood glucose, because all of a sudden, if you can take more potassium or take more topical magnesium or fix your other toxicities and deficiencies and the blood glucose goes back to normal, then the blood glucose was not the cause of your problems. It was a symptom of another problem. So we have to remember most blood tests, if you are not measuring toxicities or potential deficiencies, those blood tests are symptoms. There was a thing going around Twitter where people were saying intermesenteric fat, like the fat between your organs, causes you health problems. And then you start going, well, wait, why? No, it's that they find health problems when they find more of that fat. So it's like a chicken or the egg thing. The picture comes together. It all comes together. What caused the fat to develop? Probably toxicity. So it's just crazy how people will just be like, this causes this. And then you go, okay, so what do you do to fix that? And they're like, well, you lose weight. And you go, okay, so the intermesenteric fat causing problems was a symptom of something else causing the fat to be there. What do we make more fat for? Fat-soluble toxins. It would make sense that maybe somebody was eating tons of toxins in their diet, and their body said, rather than let these fat-soluble toxins come into the system, let's put fat around the organs so when you absorb it, it can go into the fat instead of into the bloodstream that goes back to your liver, right? So just a thought. Okay, so simple blood tests that doctors will usually run. If you want to look at your symptoms in the blood, these are ones that your doctor will typically run without too much pissing and moaning. A complete blood count with differential with platelets. So a CBC with diff, they call it, or differential with platelets. CMP, a comprehensive metabolic panel. That's your liver and kidneys panel. They'll usually do a TSH. They may or may not run thyroid hormones. If you want them to run thyroid hormones, you're probably going to have to ask them specifically. They either already do it or they don't. They will run a TSH, a thyroid stimulating hormone. If you want to see how you're detoxing, you can get a cholesterol panel. Lipid panel, they call it. Those are that's the basics. That's what doctors will usually run without any problem. If you wanted to get, maybe they'll run a vitamin D test, a 25 hydroxycholecalciferol test. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Insurance kind of stopped covering it. Just know if you get any serum blood levels, like serum magnesium, what you did or ate in the day before the test drastically affects your blood minerals and any blood vitamins that they measure. Except for the fat soluble ones. Those tend to stay pretty steady because they're leaking out of your fat all the time. So yeah, that's what you can probably get. So then we got Rory Kingsnorth. So thank you for that super chat, Fernando. Rory Kingsnorth, thank you for the super chat. He says, what causes Raynaud disease in the hands, the cold fingers? Okay. So again, it's a symptom of when you get cold, you have this vaso spastic reaction. So the blood vessels spasm. What causes it? Well, the simple answer here is toxicities and deficiencies. One time I saw in medical school, my buddy's raw vegan girlfriend came into the clinic and we were working with her raw vegan. My buddy who was in medical school with me said he went to some of the raw vegan parties and he said the amount of farting there was just unreal. Which I love that story. But what did we give her to help her resolve it for a while? Maybe we were just treating the symptoms. Well, there was B12 and we got her to eat more protein. Imagine a raw vegan not getting enough protein. Crazy stuff. And the symptoms went away. Now, am I saying that B12 is the answer to Raynaud's? No. B12, if you haven't seen on this video or on this channel, B12 and folate are depleted by vitamin A. So what should we work on first? We stop intoxing before we start worrying about detoxing. So same thing with nutrients. We stop taking in things that deplete the nutrients before we worry about taking in more. Now, she's a raw vegan, so there's not a lot of B12 in her diet. I have a lot of suspicions about B12 and what it does. You start going and looking at the research and you see that lots of cancers are associated with high B12 in the blood. Cobalt is a toxic metal. The amine group on B12 is made up at least of 3 generally regarded as toxic groups. It's a giant amine group, like a giant protein type group. Everything that makes it up is generally regarded as toxic. So you got cobalt, a toxic metal. You got 3 other toxic groups attached to it. Then you get into, if you take cyanocobalamin, you're taking cyanide with it. So you got cyanide, cobalt, and these 3 toxic groups. One of them is an azole group, which is known to slow ALDH. I think most of the effects of B12 are antidotal. It's antidoting things. So I would much rather work on the causes of the problem that when people take B12, it seems to help, rather than them just mega dosing B12. And for the MTHFR people who think they just need tons and tons of B12, if it was actually genetic, your bloodline would have ended before high dose B12 supplements came out. So the thing you need to know is that it is our modern toxicities and deficiencies that is causing the B12 problem that you are medicating. Because if it was in your bloodline, you would have died before. Your bloodline would have ended. So stop worrying about the genetic stuff. We don't do the genetic stuff in this program because I haven't found it useful. The people who come to me from genetic counselors, people who look at your DNA and put you on all sorts of supplements without even knowing your situation, they just look at your genetics. That is the biggest waste of money and time I've ever seen. They are the most ineffective people I've ever seen. Sometimes they like hit a bullseye and they give you some B12 and you feel great. Okay, great. Wait, you gave them one thing. You got one thing right. Sun shines on a dog's ass, kind of, broken clocks right twice a day. Anyway. Okay, Carol, so I hope that helps, Rory. It's just the same stuff that we do. Also, but also about kind of peripheral, I'm going to say peripheral neuropathy type stuff. B6 toxicity. I think the website is Understanding B6 Toxicity. You might want to look into if you're eating a lot of foods high in B6. B6 pyridoxine is an alcohol. B6 pyridoxal 5-phosphate is an aldehyde. It accumulates in your nerve endings. So B6 toxicity can cause peripheral neuropathy that looks just like diabetic neuropathy, but it may also, I'm not saying this is a distinct fit here, but it could play a role in this. So if you know that you've taken a lot of supplements with B6, God forbid you're taking a supplement that is just B6, but B6 is something I don't consider a vitamin either. There are no alcohols or aldehydes that are essential for humans to function. Alcohols and aldehydes are waste products in the body. We do not need retinaldehyde. We do not need pyridoxaldehyde. So, yeah, Understanding B6 Toxicity. It's a good website. It's not everything, but if you know that you may have accumulated B6 toxicity in the past, for those of you who want to look into this, maybe you're on the LYL, if look at the foods, don't get rid of muscle meat. Don't look at muscle meat and be like, oh, that has B6 in it, I got to get rid of that. We don't do that here. But if you're looking at the other foods you might be eating, if you look at like the highest B6 foods and you know that you're eating a lot of something and you have some nerve issues, first of all, you can think copper toxicity, and then you could think B6 toxicity. So you might want to work on maybe substituting those foods for something better or less in B6. So, yeah, Elijah said statins nearly killed his stepdad. Donna says her husband refuses to get off his statins, even with everything I keep telling him. Statins probably really slow down bile production. That's probably what they do. Because if you let's just say your liver was making cholesterol as a binder to toxins, and then statins stop that, where does all the toxicity stay? In your liver. It just marinates your liver, and then your liver is just fried from the inside out. And that's why you see all these diseases with it. What do you think happens with PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, the stomach acid, the GERD medications? Well, GERD, as we went over in the live stream episode about it, is bile coming into your stomach. Some people have acid coming into your stomach with the bile, some people don't. But what would that mean that PPIs are probably good at doing? Slowing down bile production. So then you don't have as much come up. PPIs are getting connected to all sorts of cancers now. What is cancer? Accumulated toxicity. So Carol's super chat. She says, hi, I have nausea. Lactoferrin and niacin make it worse and I get GERD. Some of you know exactly where that goes. You say, I'm taking charcoal, but it doesn't help. Only ginger helps. How long will it take? I'm 19. Okay, Carol. Okay. Niacin and lactoferrin, as I just went over earlier, really increase bile production. If you have a GERD problem, I think I went over this. If you haven't watched the GERD episode, Carol, you need to go watch the GERD episode like right away. You can try. So first, stop the lactoferrin and the niacin. Oh, Carol, Carol, I'm sorry. Joe was just saying I might have mistaken the name for. Okay, I don't know Carol's gender. So if you want to say it in the chat, please do. So I use the right. I'm not a pronouns guy, but I want to make sure I'm not referring to somebody by their name. Like my brother's name is Tracy. I don't want to make that mistake, just by assuming based on a name. So if you want to let me know, that'd be great. Okay. Generally, this is very, very important. If you have GERD, you probably can't take lactoferrin until it's gone. This is just something we've seen over and over. Like you have to fix the GERD thing, the bile coming back up there before you take lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is too strong for people who have active GERD issues. Okay. Okay, Christine says it's Carl in Polish. Okay, so I'm probably talking to a guy here, so I'm sorry that I did that. So yeah, niacin may be too much for you right now too. So I would at the very least, you cut those in half. And if that doesn't work, I mean, you could try cutting them in half again, so you'd be down at a quarter, but you may just have to stop them for now. That is critical. I had a woman in the program who, she wanted to take the lactoferrin and she kept taking it, and she was just like, the heartburn is it's just so bad. I just can't get rid of it. And I was like, are you still taking lactoferrin? She's like, yeah, I keep cutting down the dose, but I still keep having it. I'm like, you need to stop. So am I saying that lactoferrin causes GERD? No. If you have GERD, you can't do it. You might not be able to do niacin either. Folks, if you are taking lactoferrin or niacin, flush niacin, not niacinamide, not that garbage, and you are having GERD issues, or you're having any issues that you think are connected to them, first you cut them in half. These are the first things I suspect, other than too much soluble fiber. If you're getting like too much bile dumping issues, like which GERD would be, the first two things you at least cut in half is flush niacin and lactoferrin. How many other supplement guys out there who sell supplements would tell you to cut your doses of their stuff, right? I'm hurting my income. Now, I'm interested in getting people better. So you would cut those in half. If that doesn't work, cut them in half again. And then if that doesn't work, then you can probably just stop them. I don't like people, sometimes when people jump off of flush niacin or lactoferrin, you can have kind of a rebound, like detox effect, because they were helping your detox. Like lactoferrin helps ALDH and niacin helps run ALDH. So if all of a sudden you remove those and your body was processing them really fast, and then you took away the gasoline, your body's still trying to like pull out the aldehydes and other things to process. And then now you got a problem. So we tend to cut them in half as we go down. Okay. And then, okay, so the thing you can try, charcoal, right? First we got to remove the thing that may be aggravating it, which lactoferrin and flush niacin, you just said that. So we got to remove the thing that's aggravating it. Next, I mean, watch that GERD episode because there's all sorts of helpful tips on there. The other thing you can try is if you have acid reflux as part of the bile reflux. So as I go over the research in that episode, if you have bile, everybody who has GERD has bile reflux. Okay, bile is then generally alkaline. If you have acid reflux with the bile, that is even worse for your esophagus. So think of it as bile is not good, bile reflux is not good, but bile reflux with acid reflux is worse. So what can you do for that? You could try charcoal and some baking soda. Best to just use it as needed. Don't go over a teaspoon a day of straight baking soda. I'm not talking about buffering your niacin here, folks. Buffering your niacin, it's not baking. If you mix niacin and baking soda, it's not baking soda anymore. It's sodium nicotinate. And then the other byproducts of the process, like carbon dioxide and water and stuff like that. So, yeah, some baking soda in water. You could do this just to see if it's an acid reflux thing. You can try a quarter teaspoon of it with your charcoal. You can try, half teaspoon with it. I would try to split it up. Try to use the smallest amount of baking soda you need to. Don't go over a teaspoon a day, and realize that if you're still aggravating it, don't try to keep taking the flush niacin and the lactoferrin and then just try to shut it down with that. Don't do that. Every time you're getting that bile coming up, it's eating holes. You don't want to do that. So yeah, watch that GERD episode and just reduce anything that aggravates it for now. Even though in the program we might talk about it being good, you want to reduce it for now. Right? It'd be like, it's like picking a scab. Don't keep picking the scab and then wonder why it's not healing. And I understand we're all here trying to do good things. And sometimes we have to say, like, you can get too much of a good thing. So I hope that helps, Carl or Carol or however you pronounce your name. And I apologize if I didn't know it was Carl in Polish. So yeah, I'm not a pronouns guy. I actually went to this meeting. I had no idea. I had very little idea of what was going on there. It was the first time I was asked what my pronouns were. And I was like, where am I? What am I? I was like, I got to get out of here. And then I found out that there's a new thing, guys. Did you know there's a new thing called no pronouns? So you can't even, as another guy I know, I told him about this and he said, yeah, this is the thing with that group. Anytime like something becomes acceptable, then all of a sudden you have people having to make up new BS because they don't want to fit into the old stuff. They just have to make up new crap. And I was like, I understood that once I saw the no pronouns thing. I was like, okay, yeah, now I get it. Okay. I hope that helps. Carl. Anyway, I hope that helps. Okay, so Zendog Breath. Oh, nice super chat, Zendog. He says, Q seen Goda yet? Gary Schaefer on Mark Bell podcast, patterns to build structure, easier, stronger, safer, split squat. That's pretty random, Zendog. That's pretty random. He likes to mess with me though. I mean, does Q mean question, or are you talking about the Operation Trust Q? Because questions are good. I'm not gonna go into Q too much. That's not my area. But yeah, if you don't know what Operation Trust is, this is just Operation Trust 2.0. So you should look up Operation Trust. History doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. And they love to use the same plans over and over on us. So I don't know what GOTA is. GOATA. You're going to have to answer that so I know what it is. Question. Okay, so it means question. Seen GOTA yet? I have not. I don't know what GOTA is. Should I look it up, or do you want to just explain it, Zendog, so I have a quick, at least so I know what the acronym is for? Okay, so yeah, Elijah Wilson said about the worst lactoferrin is done to him is to give him a runny nose. This is very, very important. There's a reason why on the lactoferrin bottle, folks, there's a link to like several pages of directions about how to use lactoferrin. Okay. Because it's really, really strong and it really, really it can, in some people, really, really increase your bile production. I mean, there's research on it helping bad breath. There's research. I did the lactoferrin episode of the live stream where I went over how lactoferrin has been shown to help every single cause of the top 10 killers in the West. Like as I just did with the potassium. So I did that with lactoferrin too. Actually, I didn't do trauma because I didn't connect that with unintentional deaths from injury or whatever. So I didn't realize the trauma connection back then, and I figured that out on the potassium one, but I doubt I would have found anything for lactoferrin on that. So anyway, yeah, lactoferrin. Yeah, I got, when I went up to 2 pills of lactoferrin to test it out, my allergies were the worst they've ever been for about 6 months. I didn't know at the time about the lactoferrin creep or the lactoferrin cold or how strong it was. So I just pushed through, and 6 weeks later, it finally went away. Or 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 months. And that's when I started getting some feedback from other people. And I went, oh, we need to be a lot slower with the lactoferrin. For some people, some especially ladies, they're like, my husband started taking lactoferrin and he went up to 2 pills within like a week or 2, and he's fine. And I'm still stuck at like 1/64 of a teaspoon. And I'm like, this is just the way it is. This is individuality, and this is what we respect here. So if we say that this is why there is no protocol, because different people react differently to different things. So Joe put the link to the lactoferrin episode down there. And just now what I'm doing, I need to put this down in the show notes on each show. On the YouTube channel, you got to go, if you want to find the live streams, or you're going to send people to the live streams, you got to send them to the live tab on the YouTube home channel for this page. So, and I'm also putting the live thing in all the announcements, the live stream tab, if you will. So the other old videos, hopefully I'll get around to re-uploading all of the live streams as separate episodes themselves. Let's see. Okay, Sylvana searching asks, which type of calm, as in magnesium, do you recommend, if any? Well, we're working on the next round of supplements. I believe we will be making our own reacting magnesium citrate. The only one I recommend from Calm is the Calm is over citric acid. Like they put in more citric acid than they have to do the reaction. Kelsey and I figured that out, mainly Kelsey, looking at the label and figuring out how much magnesium was in there versus how much magnesium carbonate was in there versus how much citric acid. So they over citrate it, if you will. But they're doing that for the flavor aspect of it. I'm assuming. The only one I recommend is the plain. I honestly, if you want to have a little stevia here and there, that's fine. I don't trust stevia. I don't trust isolated drug-like compound stevia. I don't trust it. And there's infertility studies on it too. So there's infertility studies on sugar and there's infertility studies on stevia. I would bet there's infertility studies on sucralose. The infertility psyop is in full swing, folks. They're going to get you from every angle. And generally, here's just a general rule. Your liver doesn't like sweet things or an excess of sweet things. Everything I've looked at that's sweet, sugar, alcohols, artificial sweeteners, sugar, whatever, sweet things are generally not good for your liver. So I don't trust stevia. If you're having it on occasion, that's fine. But the problem with sweet things, as many of you know, is it's a slippery slope and you start doing them and then all of a sudden you want more of them and then you want more of them. And that's like a drug effect. That's tolerance. We don't want that. So, you're welcome, Silvana. Yeah. So if you're going to, okay. So for now, I do like Calm. If you want to use let me go over magnesium real quick. So again, we have the whole topical magnesium episode of how to, raise your systemic magnesium with topical magnesium. When you think of, like I said, 1 out of 20 people can actually raise their magnesium levels systemically with pills or powders. And just know when you read Calm or when you read our future magnesium citrate, it's magnesium carbonate and citric acid. Those are the two ingredients. They react in the water to form magnesium citrate. Oral magnesium is the best thing about oral magnesium is it helps you poop if you get enough of it. So think of topical magnesium raises your systemic. Oral magnesium is mainly there to help you poop. Because like I said, only about 1 in 20 people can actually raise their levels by taking magnesium orally. Do we use Epsom salts in baths? No, we don't use magnesium sulfate. Sulfate slows detox. So, which is funny that's the only like bulk magnesium that for baths that you can buy that they picked. Like they always do all these studies on like COVID and zinc. It's zinc sulfate. And then people are doing magnesium sulfate in their bath. And it's like, can we stop doing the sulfur? Could we get something else other than the sulfur maybe? Or is it a plan to slow our detox even further? So, Elijah was saying, yeah, the lactoferrin has made his breath fresher. El Patron Del Paisaje says lactoferrin comes from dairy. Yes. I mean, okay. It's in human milk too. Lactoferrin is a protein that is in every single one. Human lactoferrin is in every single one of your bodily fluids. Your tears, your saliva, your sexual fluids. It's everywhere. It's in your blood. It's everywhere. Okay. Vitamin A specifically damages the cells in your body that make it, which are the epithelial cells and the neutrophils. So vitamin A, actually, I've gone over this. It destroys those tissues. Those tissues make lactoferrin. Now, the fad a couple of years ago of camel's milk. Camels make a lot of lactoferrin in their milk. Camel milk is actually very low in vitamin A. What a coincidence. More lactoferrin, lower in vitamin A. And camel milk is supposedly about 90% similar to human lactoferrin. So there was the whole camel milk fad, which was helping people. Why do I think it was helping people? It's a lot of lactoferrin and low vitamin A. So then that kind of faded out, probably because some people were taking too much and the lactoferrin caused them to detox too hard and dump too much bile. But dairy lactoferrin, cattle lactoferrin is said to be about 60% similar to human lactoferrin, but it's an isolated protein. So they're isolating the lactoferrin out of the milk. So people, what we have seen, this is no guarantee. If you're anaphylactic to dairy, you shouldn't be doing lactoferrin just to lower your risk, to not have a risk. But if you're dairy intolerant or you're dairy sensitive or whatever, you just don't feel good on, I don't feel good on dairy. I take 2 lactoferrin pills a day because that's the dose that I like and that's what works for me. And it doesn't cause any of my dairy symptoms because it's an isolated protein. It's not the casein, it's not the whey, it's not any of that. It's not any of that other stuff. So what I'm saying is, caveat emptor, buyer beware. If you're sensitive to dairy, what you can go read this on the internet. You can go and search about lactoferrin and dairy and stuff like that. The general thing is, first, if you're anaphylactic to dairy, don't use lactoferrin. Simple. Like, cover your ass. If you're sensitive to dairy, you can probably do it without any problem because it's that clean. Okay. But yeah, there are some, it does come from dairy. We're not going to be, we're not going to be getting human breast milk supplies anytime soon. And camel milk is outrageously expensive. So we get what we can get, and we do get the best stuff. So yeah, guys, I just want to add one thing. I take my job very seriously here. And so if you're going to make a joke in the chat or on my Twitter, make it very obvious that you are making a joke. Make it very obvious that you're making a joke, because I don't want people to get misled by thinking that, let's say you're somebody who's been in the Love Your Liver program a long time and you feel, this is what happens. We all get complacent and you start making jokes about something. And then people go, oh, wait, he's like been in it forever. He's eating tons of eggs. And then they do that, or they get very confused. Typing out jokes, as those of you who know, who are like texting with other people, they can be horribly misinterpreted and cause way more problems than they solve. So it's good to be humorous. That's why when people see my Twitter, and I'm very serious on my Twitter, and then they see me here and they go, oh, wait, this is not the same you as on Twitter. I'm like, in the written word, I'm not going to be misinterpreted. I refuse to be misinterpreted. So I don't tend to joke much on Twitter, because the written word is extremely easy to misinterpret. Seeing me here, if I'm like smiling and I'm joking about it, then people can, okay, yeah, he's just kidding. I take this very seriously. This is why I'll block people who post garbage on my Twitter timeline. I have no time for my people to get misled on my timeline that I have control over. It's not because I'm excessively sensitive. It's that I will not let people mislead others on my timeline. That's all. I won't let them do it in the comments here on YouTube. I just won't have it. So, okay, Audrey was saying she's a celiac. She's trying out sorghum as a replacement for rice since it's high. Rice can be high in arsenic. If you haven't seen my rice and arsenic episode, you should watch that one. Higher in protein and lower in arsenic. Anyone eat sorghum? I eat sorghum. Actually, I put it in my last batch of stew as the main grain. I still put some barley in there, but I put mainly sorghum. I'm trying to figure out now how to meal prep sorghum for the week, so I can make it like a breakfast cereal, if you will. But yeah, I like sorghum, and I actually I do think it is good for the hormone balance of the body. Yeah. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Silvana says, my husband likes to drink beer, so he takes charcoal every night. What's your thought on that? Daily charcoal. Daily charcoal is great. It's fine. Okay, so does charcoal soak up ethanol? Yes. Does charcoal soak up acetaldehyde? Yes. The question becomes, if he knows it's a poison and he's continuing to put it in his system, he's admitting it's a poison by taking the charcoal. So you would taking the charcoal before drinking would nullify a lot of the drinking, right? It's going to soak up the alcohol. And I showed that research a couple episodes ago. So you're kind of, it's like if people go and they eat sushi and they do the charcoal sandwich where they have charcoal before they sit down, when they're sitting down to eat at the sushi place, and then they have charcoal afterwards, they're admitting that the fish they're eating is toxic. Remember that toxins you don't put in your body don't have to be processed. They don't cause damage while they're floating around free. They don't suck up nutrients to process them. They just don't cause a toxin that you do not ingest does not cause problems. But think about the negative placebo effect of saying, I'm going to drink beer every night and I'm going to take something to soak up the poison because you've actually admitted to yourself that it's poison. That's going to be kind of weird in there. Do people do it? Yes. If somebody's going to drink and they're doing charcoal to try to nullify the effects, is that better than just drinking? Yes. So it's a, as my answers tend to be, it's like, it's not just black or white. The other issue that we have seen with people who do the program is that as people get less toxic and their liver works better, they have to, when they do choose to drink, because we're all adults, we can choose to do that. If they choose to drink, it takes a lot more alcohol to get a buzz than it used to. So all of a sudden you're having to feed a lot more toxin in the system, and people tell me this, they have to drink faster. They have to drink more and they have to drink faster to get the buzz that they want. And then you start going, especially with, let's say, drink prices out in restaurants and stuff like that, you're like, the hit on your pocketbook. Like it used to be, oh yeah, I'd go out and have 2 beers and I get a buzz. And now all of a sudden you're like, I hardly get a buzz on 6 beers. What am I doing to myself? Right? Why am I having to just drink and drink and drink to get a buzz? I know this from personal experience, and we have multiple other people who say it. So this is a real phenomenon. We are fixing the liver and its ability to process alcohols and aldehydes. Is that a good thing? Yes. Is drinking productive for the detox? Definitely not. People will say, oh, alcohol, like, what were they trying to say? It solubilizes ethanol. No. People were trying to say that, like, okay, you guys know, if you ever see somebody who drinks a lot, like, right, as they get older, they're going to have lots of age spots, lots of liver spots. And then there's people on Twitter saying, like, alcohol dissolves lipofuscin, as in alcohol dissolves vitamin A stuff. It doesn't do that in the real world, because we see that people who drink a lot of alcohol have more liver spots. So is alcohol removing those by any means? No, it's probably a duration paradox study BS kind of thing. So, but yeah, daily charcoal is great. We just need to make sure that somebody's still pooping. And it would be even better if, let's say, less days of the week there was drinking going on. And if anybody ever comes to me saying, I want to lose weight, I want to lose body fat, what should I do? The very first 2 things I tell them is stop drinking calories, which beer would fall into, alcohol would fall into, and stop drinking alcohol. So, if he has any weight that he wants to lose, alcohol would be one of the first things to go. It would be the first thing to go. Yeah. So, JDS asked, would I advise against lactoferrin if you have high iron issues? No. Make sure you watch the lactoferrin episode. Silvana says beer has estrogenic effects, right? Absolutely. Zendog said GOTA, GOATA, is greatest of all time actions. They study movement patterns of the greatest athletes. Integrity of movements equals structural integrity. Yes. And I do like you were talking about the split squat. Okay, folks, I'm going to go into a little exercise thing here. Everybody is imbalanced in some way. Like, you may have a leg that's a little shorter than another. My ex-wife had hip surgery, and that made one of her legs shorter than the other. So everybody's imbalanced side to side somehow. I have a little bit of scoliosis. I corrected most of it by doing this medieval type of, I forget the name of the chiropractic approach, where they were hanging weights on me and they had me like, they held my hips in place and then they pulled my upper body to the side and I'd sit there for 20 minutes and it'd be uncomfortable and I'd break out in cold sweats. And they did it to my neck too. They were trying to pull a curve back into my neck and they fixed my scoliosis. Like technically the level of my scoliosis, I don't have it. It didn't fix my back pain, my middle back pain that I was going there for. Why? Well, what did fix my middle back pain? Fixing my diet. Nightshades, dairy. What was it? It was nightshades, dairy, and back then, gluten. I avoided those for a month. My back pain went away. It was amazing. After all the work I'd done physically on it. So you are imbalanced side to side. So if you insist on, let's say, barbell squatting with 2 legs at once, you are gonna be crooked in some way. Nobody is perfect, symmetrical. So that asymmetry, as you put more and more weight on it, it's going to tweak your asymmetry more. So I tend to like to do single limb stuff, single arm stuff. Like even if let's say you're pressing dumbbells, then you do dumbbells instead of a bar. If you're doing leg stuff, you do single leg stuff at a time. Single legs is how we live our lives. Very rarely are both feet on the ground doing the same thing at the same time. So Joe was talking about single leg split squats. I love lunge type things. I love single leg split squats. I like single leg stuff. Because if you don't have think about it, if you don't have the ability to balance on one leg to do something, you don't really own it. So you better, and if you're not balanced, like one of the ways they can tell if somebody has cancer, I don't know if you know this, people's balance gets horrible when they have cancer. I watched it. I didn't know I knew my dad had cancer. That's a long story, but I knew that he had cancer, but I wasn't supposed to know. Messed up story. But he wanted to train, do some exercise stuff and he was a city racquetball champion in 1975. The year I was born, he was the city racquetball champion. So he's an athlete. But when he's like 60s, we're doing a little workout session in my old office where it was like the first sort of CrossFit in Tucson way back then when I thought that was good. And he could not balance on one leg to save his life. And I had heard that from Dan John, that cancer can show up as terrible balance. That's one of the ways it first shows up. So I was like, I couldn't say much, but my dad was so embarrassed that he couldn't balance. Yeah. Much more, because if you can't balance, then you can't apply force. So again, training single leg trains your balance while you're applying force, while you're not worsening your side to side imbalances, because you're doing each side separately. So I go to whatever greatest of all time actions. I do think that generally I prefer single leg, single arm stuff. But like I say, single leg or single arm stuff, dumbbells fits that. So that's what I tend to do. Okay. Let me see. Was there anything else I wanted to get? Wow. Okay. Sidsel Boy Peterson has an interesting question. He has vitamin D toxicity due to chickens being fed 300 times more vitamin D in their feed by accident. This is how babies have died when they accidentally fortified milk too much. This is legit. This is why taking rat poison D3 is not a good idea. People have died from it. Animals die from it. They get chronic kidney disease from it. Kidney failure. Sorry, that's kidney failure. So we have this, ate 4 of these eggs for 4 days that were of this toxic amount of vitamin D. How to clean this? It's just cut down on your no supplements of vitamin D detox is generally, it's very easy. You just avoid foods with vitamin D, foods and supplements. It goes away. 4 eggs for 4 days. I don't think you're that bad off. I hope the chickens watch the chickens. If the chickens are fairly okay, then you're probably going to be fairly okay. If the chickens are like dying, then yeah, you may have a bit more. But again, charcoal, soluble fiber, the same stuff that we do, sweating. You tend to sweat out fat soluble toxins like vitamin D through your armpits and your groin. So make sure to wash those if you're ever doing something where you sweat a lot. Okay, so here's well, I'll just add JDS his comment here. Cutting coffee is so important. I've been doing the program for 6 months and I only think I started detoxing properly after quitting coffee. Too much coffee can be a big problem. But also, everybody, I want to temper what JDS said. We've had lots of people make lots of progress while they're still consuming coffee. Coffee is often the last thing to go. Some people, they cut out coffee and they're like, this was the best thing I ever did. Some people say eating beans is like getting the okay to eat beans was the best thing they ever did. It's all different for different people. But if you're going to drink coffee, make sure you get clean stuff, like organic stuff. Okay. Zendog is saying 20 years of kidney stones gone after the first 5 months on the Love Your Liver program. And Heather said, I can take lactoferrin now that I got the GERD under control. Very good. Start slow. Adding beans daily was a game changer for me. So yeah, the beans to soak up the bile. So it all works together. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, think about this. I sell lactoferrin and I'm telling you, you may not be able to take it now. You may not be able to take it for a while. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but how many other people selling supplements will say, yeah, my supplement did that. Don't take it. Like I'm here to help people get better. I'm not here to just sell stuff. I will very gladly tell people, don't take that or take less or take it out for a while and then restart it later. Why am I trying to make liquid mineral supplements so people can take lower doses? The right amount for them at their point in the process. Trying to do things right. Transient says, what should someone do who has recently stopped chemo and needs to gain weight with no appetite? That's a tough one. Okay, because I've been over this. I think I went over this on my chemo thread on Twitter. So why would okay, so and I want to answer this question because I heard somebody asking about this. They were asking why they were so hungry on the program, or they were detoxing, or they're dumping bile, and why are they so hungry? There's two theories of mine. Now these are all theories, but they make sense to me. And so overtypes, people who tend to be overweight and they tend to make a lot of bile. They just make more bile. Overtypes, when they dump bile, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it goes into their digestive system. What is one way that the body could soak up bile so that it doesn't leak into the system and so that it doesn't irritate your gut as much? Your body will tell you to eat food and eat food and eat food so because the bile, think about it, if the bile came out of your liver and it's just bile, it's just like this nasty lava acid stuff coating your intestines. Think of that Pepto-Bismol commercial where the pink stuff goes down and just coats everything. So think if bile was doing that, if it was undiluted, coating everything, it's just eating holes in everything. So what does your body intuitively know to do? It says eat and eat and eat and soak up this bile. Like try to just don't have it just be bile coating everything. And so overtypes, especially overweight, right? They tend to want to eat more. They're hungry a lot because in theory, if they were dumping a lot of bile and their body didn't want to do the damage to the guts, then it'll tell them to eat. Okay. Undertypes. Like after chemo, if let's say the bile is really toxic, they may not be making a lot, but it's really toxic. So chemo tends to result in fatty liver, which means, in my opinion, that the bile and the toxins are getting stuck in the liver and they're staying there. And the liver starts making fat to store them. So after chemo, when the person starts making more bile, so chemo, the way chemo works on cancer is it slows down or stops bile production. So then there's not the bile going in the blood to the cancer. So there's not the toxins going to the cancer to keep it going. So the cancer actually has a lot of ALDH in it, and the cancer starts processing the toxins, and the body is able to, the cancer shrinks. And then when the chemo effect on the liver and the bile wears off, the liver starts pumping out bile again. But the bile is now even more toxic because it's got chemo in it. And you weren't detoxing well the whole time. You weren't making bile. This is why cancer comes back. And that's why new cancer comes back after each round of chemo, is because now the bile is more toxic. So let's say that somebody has what's called more intrahepatic cholestasis. So that means bile leaking directly out of the liver into the bloodstream. So it's not even going into the common bile duct. It's not going into the intestines. Part of it is not, at least. So let's say if your body, in its wisdom that we cannot understand, we can make theories like we're doing, but you eat and your body triggers a bile dump. But that bile dump, instead of going into your intestines, goes into your blood. And you have bile receptors in your bloodstream to tell you if you're leaking tons of bile. So your body senses that you have too much bile. Eating triggered a bile dump. Bile dump means bile is in your blood. Your body in its wisdom says, don't eat. This is not helping us right now. If you trigger bile dumps, we just dump bile into the blood, and this is bad. So then your body tells you to not eat. You lose your appetite. So this is one way in theory that we can connect appetite to bile dumping. Where's the bile going? If it's tons of it's going into your gut, you'll tend to be hungrier. If tons of it is going into your bloodstream, the body will say, stop eating because this is just making it worse. The body says the body picks the slow death over the quick death. So if you're dumping a bunch of bile into the blood, that could be quick death. So the body says, let's not do the quick death. Let's do the slow death and just tell you not to eat, because we have a lot longer to go before we starve than if you dump tons of bile into the blood. So that's the theory about that. Otherwise, it's just working the program and then being careful with the program that you're not doing things to agitators that trigger a lot of bile dumping. So they'd be getting enough food. They'd have to emphasize protein. Protein is the main thing. If you're eating high protein foods like red meat, muscle meat, stuff like that, you're going to be getting fat. But they got to eat something that they tolerate that is not toxic. So that could be something like they could start with, an all muscle meat carnivore diet. And then they could add some sort of soluble fiber, whether that's like apple pectin capsules or psyllium, organic psyllium fiber, or sun fiber. They're just getting something to help soak up bile. And making sure that they're pooping. So they might do some magnesium to make sure they're pooping, because if they don't have the bile going in their intestines, they're probably constipated. So getting them pooping would be good. Some binding would be good. Some, nutrients, like, if they can take keystone minerals, that would be great. Or the other minerals, zinc and selenium and molybdenum in amounts that work for them. And then just, getting enough food for them, but not shoving in tons of food, because their liver's already overloaded, and any food you eat, your liver still has to process. So that's that. Okay, let me see. Joe, was there any more, no more super chats? No, okay. Let me see. I'm just going to look through here for any more questions from where I was. Oh, Heather says she's focusing on eccentric exercise these days. Feel much better. Results quicker with less energy expenditure. Way more flexible with little stretching. Love it. Full splits at 7.5 years. I do like eccentric or negative exercise too. I do think it has a very important place in all of this. Aaron liked the theory of the bile and the appetite. So, yeah. Black Magic asks, any thoughts on Paul Chek in his book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy? I think there's probably a lot of good stuff in it. I haven't read it. I remember a buddy of mine who I went to some physical exercise seminars with telling me that, like, I know several people who were like around like Dr. Lawrence Wilson and around Paul Chek when they were like, they were kind of losing it at some point. And I kind of went, that's too bad. One woman, she lived next to Dr. Wilson. She was like, I saw when he was kind of like going down the spiral. But there's probably a lot. There's Paul Chek's book. There's probably a lot of good in it. I'm sure there's a lot of good in it. There may also be some very misguided dietary stuff. Silvana says, I'm definitely eating a lot after the program. I have to watch myself so I don't gain weight. Formerly vegan. Yeah. I know personally, I do better with more muscle meat than more carbs. Like if I want to be leaner, more muscle meat, not less carbs. I didn't say low carb. I said less carbs. And I also know that me sticking to the diet because I'm just contrarian in everything I do. Like I said before, if I tell myself to do something, I start resisting myself. So I try not to be too strict because I know I'm going to go 2 days of being strict and then I'm going to fight back because I'm like, nobody tells me what to do, even me. So it's interesting. Let me see. I'm still just looking to see if there's anything else. Zendog says, working to get our chickens to lay white yolks, been out of the year. I don't know. I don't know how often they'll lay eggs. If you get it to white yolks, Zendog, there's a post in the network. You've probably seen it, I'm guessing, but there's a post in the network about. So folks, chickens in captivity, like home chickens, they squirt out more eggs than they ever would in the wild. The stuff we feed them, chickens detox through their eggs. Now, if you want to say, wait, this doesn't make sense. Human women detox through their menstrual cycle. That is one way that women can detox. So if a human menstrual cycle is detox, and chickens that eat tons of vitamin A start pumping out tons of eggs that are orange in the yolk, it's a detox mechanism. Yes, they do have to do it to reproduce. Women still have to menstruate to reproduce, right? We don't want to stop menstruation, but it's a detox route. So chickens that are pumping out tons of eggs are toxic compared to ones that are in the wild, pumping out, I don't know, maybe one, I don't know the rate, but one every couple weeks, maybe one a month. They're not pumping out one a day or more than one a day. So Black Magic, you were asking if is there a difference between, eggs differently if they're chickens in your own backyard being fed high quality feed. If they're pumping out tons of eggs, they're more toxic. And if you're feeding them vitamin A and vitamin D and, choline, like I went over choline earlier, higher choline in the blood was associated with multiple diseases. And they basically said there was a direct correlation between the amount of eggs people ate and the choline in their blood. And the higher choline, then we connect that to more diseases. So if I had chickens, I would only be eating the egg whites. And if I was using a yolk, it would only be in like a recipe, maybe for like a holiday. And those of you who have kids and you're feeding and they like eggs and stuff, what you can do with kids, especially if they eat scrambled eggs, is take out as many yolks as possible. Maybe leave in at least half the yolks you can just toss. And then just make the rest. If you're going to make the rest of the yolks and make the whites, then do that. Or you can go down to even fewer as they get used to it. Kind of like if you have kids drinking juice, you can start out diluting it by half and they probably won't even notice it. And then over time, you can just reduce the actual amount of juice and have more water in it and they hardly notice it. So, so is it better to have, so that's the thing. Homegrown eggs, like depending upon what you feed them, like if you're getting orange yolks, those are super toxic in vitamin A. So if you say you're feeding them healthy, I don't know. There's always a lot of contextual stuff. Like the gentleman who fed his chickens too much vitamin D by accident. 300 times what they're supposed to get. So, okay. Elijah was saying dairy messes with his kidneys too because of his history of kidney stones. Dogs that had higher vitamin A in their blood had more kidney stones. Vitamin D supplements has been associated with kidney stones a long time. Dairy's high in calcium. What's a key component of kidney stones? Calcium. Dairy has 4 times more calcium in it than human breast milk. Do you think human breast milk was designed improperly, or is dairy milk from another species for another species? And how do cows get all that calcium eating grass to make milk with all that calcium? Where do chickens get all the calcium to make their eggshells? They don't need enough calcium to make eggshells if they're pumping out eggs all the time. They're converting silica. I mean, if you're out there giving chickens eggshell calcium so they can make more eggshells, that's kind of weird, cannibalistic in a certain way. But if you look up biological transmutation, chickens, they figured that chickens, the only way that they were making calcium for their eggshells was they were biologically transmuting silica into calcium. What if cows are doing that too? What if they don't tell us the truth about anything in nutrition? I think that's about it. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. I got to get to the inner circle. I'm surprised Pierre's not in the chat going, come to the inner circle already. So websites, nutritiondetective.com is our main website. If you wanted to work with a practitioner, myself or others, that's where you can find that. That's where you can find our supplements. We have the VIP store. People who are in the Love Your Liver program get access to the VIP store where they get discounts on supplements and other things that we offer. If you want to go to the Love Your Liver program, the Do It Yourself program, which is, its own little community. Well, it's actually kind of a big community. That's members.nutritiondetective.com. Obviously, if you're watching this here on YouTube, youtube.com/nutritiondetective. We are also on Rumble. I don't know what the Rumble channel is called. But that's probably Nutrition Detective something. And then what else do we have? Oh, on Twitter, I'm NutriDetect, NutriDetect. If you find that methylene blue thread in the live chat, that'll take you to my page, and you can follow me there. And I think one of the big threads I'm going to work on soon will be the ivermectin thread. Kelsey and I will work on the ivermectin thread, and then I think we're going to redo the methylene blue video and the ivermectin video, because people really need to know. Folks, don't take an insecticide, which is ivermectin. It doesn't solve anything. It shuts down your detox just like all of it. So the pharma cartel is not your friend. And if you get the flu, you don't need to take an insecticide to help you. Methylene blue is a pharma drug through and through. If all of a sudden the pharma came out and they're like, well, look, just take a little mercury. It'll help your brain run better and your mitochondria run better. Would you trust them? We know that methylene blue is very toxic in high doses. What in the world makes people think that it's not a toxin anymore in low doses? It's not an essential nutrient. It's directly related to like red 40 dye. Like, it's in the same chemical family. If you haven't seen that thread, I'm very impressed with that thread. I'm very proud of that thread that I did. Even though they cut me off at 25 tweets, I was going to keep going. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I might look a little tired today because I didn't get enough sleep last night because I flew back in. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed that. We will get back with a topic for next week. And yeah, have a great week. Bye now.